Hello and welcome back to another episode of Talking Bollocks. Yes, it is I, Howard H. Smith, the superior, nay, the purveyor of bollocks. So, my name is Howard H. Smith. I am lead singer of UK thrash band Acid Rain. I also do stand-up comedy. See keithplatt.co.uk. See me do so comedy, Keith Platt, music, Acid Rain, podcast, this, and all of it's on social media. If you want to come and join us, that'd be cool. If you want to sign up as a patron, you can spend $5 a month and get virtually your own podcast. When I say virtually your own, what that is exactly what it says. Basically, you get this podcast early, but you also get prior notice of who's coming on the podcast, and you get to send the questions in, and you get all of your questions answered by anyone you like. Well, not anyone you like, people I'm interviewing, and that becomes part of your podcast. There you go. $5 a month. Sign up at patreon.com/Howard H. Smith. Hopefully, we've got that out of the way early doors. Thanks for those of you who are signing up. Patrons are very loyal, and it's been really good to have you guys along. I am trying to smash out the content and up the game, and boy, you are going to be getting, it's still going to be coming. If you haven't seen it, there is another podcast coming out very hard on the heels of this one. There will be more movie podcasts. There will just be more podcasts in general. So keep your ears to the ground. Keep your eyes open, because there is going to be also one almighty Sepultura special, which is going to blow you the fuck away. Seriously, man. Honestly, it's good. Okay, it's not as good as Quadra, which is still my favourite album of the year, but it is good. Another album of the year, not album of the year, but another album that I am interested in is, there's going to be a feature with the main man from the band on the next podcast, which is coming down the pipe to you very soon. And that is Tales of a Future Past by Mekong Delta. Yeah, I know. Mekong Delta. Whoever thought that they would still be going all these years later? But they are. Ralph is a lovely guy, and I have a chat to him in a podcast coming up, so there's no point in me teasing something that's not there. So what has been happening in the world of metal this last month? I'll tell you what. A load of people in lockdown, that's what. Not a lot. I mean, basically, Serge from Serge Tankian. I always want to say it's Tankian, but that's probably wrong and offensive. But basically, he said, the reason that there's nothing going on is that we can't agree, and that's it. So, brilliant. Well, thanks for that. Wonderful. Thanks for explaining it. Thanks for explaining it in such great detail. But yeah, good old fashioned. They just keep rowing every time they get together and trying to do new stuff. So decided to knock doing stuff on the head that's new on the head. Have I got that right? Well, anyway, look, it's not fucking happening. Right, it's not happening. But hard on the heels of that, guess what? Donald Trump is on a mission from God. It is divine intervention, says well-known political commentator Ted Nugent, the Nuge. Yeah. I mean, the weird thing is, I'm going to say this now, right? Okay? I always thought he was a bit of a knob. All right? Always. Never been a fan. Now, he also, to me, he kind of appears to be the kind of guy or the kind of influence or the kind of artist that, I don't know, he's like Kiss. He's big over here, but nowhere near as big as he is in the States. It's that kind of vibe, you know what I mean? And that doesn't lead me nicely onto the rant I did about, just positivity and, look, get your heads around the facts. Look, you know what? Ultimately, if denial is your way of getting through this, then fine. And some people clearly are. I mean, I was again on social media this week and had somebody saying, there'll be gigs. One comedy even promoter was like, everything will be back to normal by autumn. Fucking what? And there's another guy, there'll be gigs. This really isn't as bad as everyone's making out. Oh, no. And it's just like, if you really want to deny the evidence that is in front of your eyes, that's fine. I mean, these people are completely unaware of the phrase the new normal, because no, for them, everything's just going to go back to normal. But then again, like I say, I kind of think, well, do you know what? I was debating with a guy and I just thought, do you know what? I'm just going to leave this, because ultimately, if that's his way of getting through this, thinking that there's going to be gigs before the end of the year, then do you know what? Fine. If you want to ignore the evidence, if you want to ignore the fact the UK government has just extended the furlough for people who can't go to work because of coronavirus up to December of 2020. Yes, people cannot go to work because of coronavirus, but no, we're going to be able to go to pubs and clubs and have gigs. Really? But anyway, look, if that's their way of getting through it, like I said, it just kind of sort of hit me and I thought, yeah, do you know what? Fair enough. I mean, because this whole thing is just fucking weird, isn't it? And I'm sorry, I don't want to go on about it, because I'm sure you're probably listening to this thinking I don't want to hear about coronavirus. Yeah, fair enough, okay. But it's everywhere. And the point is that I was just thinking the other day, I don't know if anybody else has this, my mind plays tricks on me. Do you know what I mean? I'm literally like, oh, do you know what? Why don't I get in touch with so-and-so and we could go for a bit... Oh, yeah. And I literally find myself going, oh, maybe I could... Oh, right, yeah, no, I can't do that. And what is it about the human condition that just, you know, it's like there's a part of my brain that's just denied there's lockdown. So then I started thinking, well, do you know what? And there's other people who are just denying that, you know, that our lives are going to be changed forever and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they are. The minute a vaccine happens, brilliant. But until there is a vaccine, our lives will be pretty much changed forever. Now, yes, Italy are starting concerts again. If any of you have seen that particular article that's been doing the rounds, yes, Italy are starting concerts again. And as usual with social media, the guy I was arguing with was like, look, concerts are back in Italy. And it was like, yeah, this is another one of those, you're emailing me an article you haven't, not emailing, but you're posting an article you haven't read, have you really? Because if you had, you would say that it's 1 metre seat distancing, mandatory masks and sanitizer, no contact between performers, and no standing events. So in other words, fucking nothing to do with the kind of gigs that we go to, in fact, when we're talking gigs. So, you know, it is what it is, isn't it? It's a complete fucking pain in all of our asses, and that's all we can really. That's all I can come up with at the moment. Is it's just a massive pain. But I'll tell you what would have been worse. What would have been worse is if we would have lost Brian May in the middle of all of this. Yes, Brian May had was very near death after suffering a small heart attack, which is like. You know, we're at that age with our genre of music. You know, with your Sabbaths, your Queens, your Priests, your Maidens. We've already lost Ronnie Dio, and you know we are going to start losing just a whole bunch of legends. And yeah, it's just fucking depressing, really, isn't it? And because our genre has only been around since these people created it, to see actual creators of the genre going is just going to be fucking heartbreaking. It really is. What else has been going on? Well, Dave Mustaine collaborator Lee Ving, as in I bet that was hilarious when he thought of that when he was a kid, but not anymore. Lee Ving, singer with The Fear, has basically told a podcast that he wants to know what happened during the pair's only collaboration in 1996. 1996! Wow. Like, full on, 24 years ago, he suddenly decided he wants to know what happened. Fair enough. Tell you what else has happened. Slayer's Kerry King has bought a Las Vegas home for $3.8 million. Do you know what? Good on him. Good on him. I am so pleased that somebody in Slayer actually has, you know, a decent amount of money to be able to buy, because they deserve it, is what I'm getting at. Because they fucking deserve it. Because it's fucking Slayer. That's why. I mean, seriously, those guys. Well, look, yeah, you know my love of Slayer, and it's going to get out of hand if I carry on much longer. And so that would seem like an ideal point to not carry on any longer and get stuck in. So, guys, first interview is Jason Bittner from Overkill. I am big fan of Overkill. Their camp helped me out a lot, and you know, and support Acid Rain Online as well, which is fucking awesome. Bobby's been on the show quite a few times, and this is Jason's first turn. So. Former Flotsam and Overkill drummer, former, God knows, Shadows Fall, you name it, loads of bands, great drummer, really nice guy, really good chat, hope you enjoy it. These are two shorter interviews, purely because sometimes I can't, you know, always get the, you know, a long form interview, but I'm more than happy to grab what I can. So, without further ado, from Overkill, drummer, Jason Bittner. So, how have you been? Are you in lockdown where you are?
I'm in lockdown in upstate New York. Yes, sir.
Ah, right. So, yeah, you've had some interesting events with a large funeral. I hear last night.
What's that?
Yeah, there was a huge Jewish funeral for a rabbi who died from coronavirus, and 200 people attended, and the cops turned up and broke it up.
Well, two things. First of all, I don't live in New York City. I'm
right.
Upstate, 3 hours away from New York City.
Right.
Two, I'm Jewish. Three, I have no idea about that.
Hey, great start.
Hey.
I'm mess you about calling you up, and then mention loads of stuff that's not relevant. Well, I tell you what, let's move on, shall we? Because I'm kind of sick of talking about the coronavirus. I don't know about you.
I'm right there with you. I got about a half an hour too. I hope that's enough time.
Yeah, cool. No problem, man. No problem. Presumably, are you getting to work on material at all? Are you creatively how you're filling in the time?
To be honest with you, creatively, I'm up to my neck in a million things. I'm definitely, let's just say I'm definitely using this time to my advantage. First and foremost, I'm sure Chris probably told you, Overkill is already on, demos for the next record. So
yeah.
We're already, we're started up with that already. And I've got another record to do with my other band, and I'm not talking about Shadows Fall. I have this other little project called Coconut Donut. It's kind of like a rock thing that me and a friend of mine do, which we were going to be working on that anyways. So I was already going to be working on those two records, but due to the fact that we're doing all this, that this is happening, and no one can go anywhere, I've been doing a lot of just tracks and just collaborations and shit with various friends of mine. I'm doing a few drum things with a few name guys, which I don't want to talk about yet because I want to get them done and up online first before we start bragging about it. And some musical collaborations with some of my guitar player friends and whatnot. So I'm definitely keeping busy. It's just like I've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. I can't really start divulging until they get finished.
Sure. Yeah, no, I feel that, and funnily enough, that's the one advantage, isn't it, of where we're at the moment, is that you can get hold of people.
Yeah. Yup.
Yeah. Looking at the bright side of it all. Hence, I'm knocking out interviews left, right, and centre because it's actually possible to get hold of people. But with Overkill, was the touring cycle over for the album anyway, or has it kind of sped the process of the new album up?
Well, all right. Well, here's the thing with that. Fortunately for us, we were sort of near the end of the cycle, kinda. The U.S. tour sadly got cut 2 dates before the end, and with the biggest show being one of them that we lost, sadly, in Jersey. But we had stuff over the summer, like festivals here and there, Mexico, a few things in Europe, Vakken, all that stuff that it's all now canceled. So we were still on the tail end of the cycle, and we have Russia and the Ukraine and Japan, that's all supposed to be September and October, and we're pretty sure that that's going to just be gone too. So even if COVID didn't happen, we still were going to be working on demos right now. That was already the plan, because the plan was to have the new record out by next year, because we already had a tour for March 2021 set up to launch the record. But considering now with the virus, there's no timeline for anything anymore for anybody, because we don't know when things are going to open back up.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think right now, Dee Dee's it's given Dee Dee more time to write. It's given us more time to sit on demos and start throwing ideas around. But as far as us actually getting in the room in Jersey to start hashing it out, I don't know when that's going to happen. So I think everything is just kind of like on a temporary standstill right now, sadly.
Yeah. No, I play in a UK thrash band called Acid Rain, and we were, our album came out in September.
I know the name.
Cool. Well, our album was out, and you know, we've had basically to just push everything back. But when I say push it back, we've had to cancel it. But it's just like push it back to when, you know, you just can't say.
Hey, speaking of, do you guys play any shows with Reign of Fury at all?
No, it's kind of weird. We're from slightly different eras. So for some reason our paths have never crossed.
But are you familiar with that band though?
Yes.
Yeah. My friend Matt O was a guitar player in it for a long time.
Ah, right. Well. Speaking of friends, a certain Michael Gilbert is a very good friend of mine.
Who?
Michael from Flotsam.
I'm joking right now. I was literally just talking to him yesterday. When I told you I'm doing things with certain people, he's one of the guys I'm doing some videos with. We're just gonna do a couple, you know, just me and him jamming a couple of Flotsam songs that, you know, on the record that I was on. But, you know, just things like that, you know,
yeah,
little videos like that, just for fun.
Oh man, I know exactly what you mean. At the moment, we're filming a video for one of the songs on the album. But we're basically we've already it's already been released as a single. It's a cover version of a Suzanne Vega tune, and we've already put the video out. But what we're doing now is we're doing the isolation version of the video, and we're all basically just filming ourselves doing really, really stupid shit, and we're going to put it together, and it's just basically going to be like a comedy video, just to put, you know, a smile on people's faces and give us something to do.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the same. I know exactly what you mean. It's just like, you know, there's all sorts of creative projects that are going to pop up out of this that would never have happened.
Yep.
You know, which is the one kind of advantage that we can all cling on to. That, you know, there's going to be some stuff like that. And as a Flotsam fan, I'm really pleased to hear that as well, because I love the album that you played on, and you know, it was, I remember speaking to Michael, and at the time it was just stoked to have you in the band, and it was, you know, it was looking like it was going to be permanent. And then the Overkill thing came along, and obviously, you know, Overkill seemed to be a lot busier.
Something, Howard, for 3 years it was permanent, and I love Mike. He's one of my best friends. I love the guys in that band, and I loved being in Flotsam. They're one of my favorite bands from all time. But I just have a stronger connection to Overkill. You know, it's just, I've known those guys just as long. You know, we've all known each other for fucking 30 years now, and just it being an East Coast band, it's really hard. Like when you like apples and oranges, well, which one do you like better? It's like, I like them both the same, but I'm going to go with the one that sells more oranges. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, no offense, but Overkill does better numbers than Flotsam does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's well apparent when they were opening for us on the last few tours.
Yeah, and well, you know, look, as a huge Flotsam fan myself, you know, from one fan to another, you know, in my opinion, Flots have never broken through. They've never got the credit they deserve. You know, Eric is for me one of the greatest metal, never mind thrash vocalists of all time. And
everybody that I've played with in my entire history, I'm going to say that Joey Belladonna is the best singer that I've ever played with, because I was in Anthrax for 6 months. But as far as guys that I really was in a band with, Eric is clearly the best singer.
Yeah.
Blitz is the best frontman, though.
Oh, hell yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know?
I think in fact I saw you guys. I saw you guys on the when you were supporting the Cavaliera conspiracy when they were doing Return to Roots, and I brought a friend of mine along.
On paper, but
I know.
Anyway,
I know. I remember talking to Blitz about it, and let's gloss over that. But
let's definitely gloss over that.
Yes, yeah. The friend that I brought with me, huge fan of the Roots album, huge Sepultura fan from back in the day. Hadn't seen him for years. It was a bit of a treat, me taking him along. Didn't know anything about Overkill. She comes out at the end of the night and goes, well, Overkill, easily, band of the night, fucking blew her away. You know, and I think that speaks volumes for, you know, the band as a live act, but Blitz as a frontman as well.
Yep, absolutely.
It's just that that ability to connect to a crowd. You know, he's got it, and he knows how to talk to people because when he's talking to you, it feels like you're sat round a table in a bar together.
Yep.
You know,
absolutely.
And that's a skill that, you know, you've either got it or you don't. I don't think you can learn it. It's either there or it isn't. But yeah, I mean, the whole 3 years in Flots. I mean, that's some time. It must have been quite fun as well, playing sort of songs that you'd been a fan of for years and getting a chance to play them with them.
Oh, it absolutely was. I mean, this has happened now in every band that I've either filled in for or joined. It started with Anthrax. When I was filling in with them, I'd be like, hey, can we play this song? Hey, can we play this song? You know, and we would just pull these songs out that were like, yeah, shit, we haven't played that one in a long time. Like, awesome. You know, like I did that with Anthrax, with Keep It in the Family, with
Nice.
Be All End All was another one that I asked them to play. So it was cool. When I got into Flotsam, we were literally on the No Place for the Deceiver tour. So that was when we were just doing the first two records, which to me are the greatest Flotsam records. And all the songs that I played incessantly when I was 16 through 19 years old. I mean, Kelly's one of my favorite drummers. So I know that stuff hands down. So it was coming in to play all that material, be like, awesome. And then when we start picking other songs, and I'm like, all right, well, I want to play Stuff for the Masses. I'm like, okay, well, let's play that one. And then when I got into Overkill, same thing. I'm like, all right, guys, I want to do Necro Shine. I want to do, you know. So it's great being a fan, but it's also cool being the guy who's the dude too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and you know, I was just sat here nodding along with every single song you mentioned there because they are all songs that as fans you want to hear, and they weren't playing them, so that's also a kind of like a perspective that you bring to their game, isn't it? You know, it's like, okay, right.
I would say that to Dany too. I'm like, all right, can I talk to you as Overkill super fan and not as the drummer in the band?
Yes.
He's like, sure. I'm like, all right, if I was coming to see you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we get in these discussions on the set and stuff because, like, Dany, you know, takes a lot of what I say into consideration, which is awesome. Well, send me like, well, what do you think of this? And I'll write back, I'm going, well, dude, I get why we don't have anything in Horoscope in the set because we've been playing a lot of songs off that for the last couple of years. I said, but I'll tell you one thing. If I was coming to see Overkill and we didn't play one song off Horoscope, the first thing I'm going to go is, I can't believe these fucking guys didn't play off anything off their greatest, the best record that they had. And he just looks at me and he goes, yeah, you're right. Okay, we should add something in.
Yeah, but that's great. You know, that's like you say, it's all part of the service, isn't it?
It is.
Cool.
I'm still a fan. You know, it's like as much as I'm the drummer in the band, I'm still a fan. Every time I look out there and see those two guys and I look over and I see Derek and Dave, I'm like, this is fucking pretty crazy. Because, you know, I still remember taking Dave out when he first joined the band 20 years ago because, you know, Tim Mallory and I were extremely close, and every time they played through my town, I'd always take those guys to the bars afterwards. So, you know, it's just like, you know, things come full circle.
They do, don't they? And it's funny how that happens as well. You know, it's I guess it's longevity, isn't it? If you're in the scene long enough, things start coming full circle.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of that longevity as well. I mean, look, I'm going to ask, just throwing this out there, and you know, I apologise in advance. But do you think the whole you know, Shadows Fall, is that ever going to re-emerge?
Well, let's talk about that, and let's hope this doesn't turn into a headline on Blabbermouth tomorrow.
No, they hate me, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Every time I mention Shadows Fall, it seems to be a headline the next day, which is fine, because you know what? At least we're still getting press, so that's great.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to tell you what I've told every single person who's asked me this question. Everybody in Shadows Fall talks to each other on a usually weekly basis, if not a bi-weekly basis. We're all on a text message chain together all the time, whether or not it's just bullshit, talking about our families, how you doing, hey, what's going on, blah, blah. We love each other. You know, we never disbanded because there was any animosity. We disbanded because people stopped coming to see us, and John joined Anthrax. So, you know, that was the catalyst to that. But we still love the band. We love each other. We want to do something. It's just with John being in Anthrax and with me being in Overkill, trying to work around two highly working bands is really hard. So that's why it's like we want to do it, but we just don't know when we can do it. So we've had some things happen within the last, few years or so that we've had an option here, option there, and we just haven't been able to take it due to whatever reason, usually one of the bands being on the road. We got a great offer at the beginning of last year, at the ending of last year, actually, to go to the Philippines and do the SummerSlam Festival, which is a giant festival in Manila that we did years ago. If you recall, we had a DVD out years ago. It was called Madness in Manila that we shot live in the Philippines in 2010 or 2009. So every year Vernon has this festival, the promoter, and this was going to be the last year he was going to have it. Iron Maiden was going to be the headliner, and he wanted us to come and be the opening band. He wanted us to come and open for Maiden, number one, because he knew we were friends with Maiden. We toured with Maiden years ago, and because he wanted us to be part of this the last time. We were, 80% of us were ready to do it. I had gotten the time free from Overkill, and it turned out that John had a show booked with Anthrax. So we had to pass on it, and then Death Angel got the gig because we couldn't do it. And now I just noticed like 2 weeks ago that Maiden had canceled their whole Asian tour anyway. So the gig that we would have had wouldn't have even came to fruition anyways.
Oh, man.
But it was there.
Right.
And we had another thing that we were potentially thinking about possibly trying to get together, but now due to COVID, nobody knows.
Yeah.
But I mean, really just want to get to the meat and potatoes of it is one day we're going to do something. We just don't know when the fuck that's going to be.
Well, and even more so now after all this shit happening.
Right? Well, I mean, nobody knows if anybody's ever going to play a show again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're all going to be playing shows from our fucking front rooms for the rest of our lives. Do you know what? I actually think that's kind of, well, just from my personal point of view, I actually think that's kind of worked out quite nicely because if you had been announced as going out with Maiden, it would have been this whole wow, Shadows Fall are finally doing it. They're coming, blah blah, and then it would have all got taken away.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So
exactly. So I think in hindsight, it's good that it never came to fruition in the first place because that really would have been a big letdown. It was a letdown in the first place when John came back and wasn't going to be free. We're like, oh man. Because it just would have been so awesome to do that, even if it was just like a one-time thing, not necessarily a reunion. Even if we just got a chance to do that one show, it would have been cool. But then, I'm kind of glad it didn't get booked because I'd be more disappointed now having to cancel it.
Yeah, and well, also you kind of get. It's like it's been done then, hasn't it? It's been announced once. It's been launched. So the next time you do it, it's a bit of the gloss has been taken off it, if you like.
It loses its thunder.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's really cool, and I mean, I'm really glad to hear that everyone's still tight as well. But I do, having played in a thrash band, in the 80s and 90s and seen crowds go from packed to we're not really interested anymore. I completely understand the, that whole route to calling it a day as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of taken out of your hands, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But you've bounced back for that, many times, and where you find yourself now is as you said earlier, it's incredible that you've been able to play in all these bands that you were fans of, or that you were a fan of. And I mean, the fact that you're doing stuff again with Michael as well, that's really cool. It's from a drumming perspective, as regards the new Overkill stuff. Will you just get kind of demos of that and then kind of work along to it, and then it's a case of getting in the room and all saying, well, I kind of thought I was going to do this here and that here, and then just trying to kind of piece it together.
Yeah, what we do first is Dee will send us a rough demo, and then Dave and I take it home, and then we start picking it apart, and we start coming back and sending back ideas on it to his. And then what we do is we pick a week, and Dave comes up from Florida, I go down to Jersey, and we go to Dee, and then the three of us spend a week going through usually 2 songs a day and just picking them apart and getting them together, and that's how we do pre-production. And then everybody puts in their little stuff, and we end up with a final result. And we give that back to Blitz, and then he puts lyrics on it.
Brilliant. Yeah, and well, yeah. I mean, I kind of think that's that's how thrash seems to work. You speaking as a vocalist and lyricist myself. It's very, very... In fact, I can only think of one example in my entire career where the lyrics came first. Thrash seems to be... It's kind of like the other way around, basically.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the nature of the style of music.
Yep. I think you're right.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've the only time it's ever happened the other way around was a real one-off, and I've never tried to recreate it because it's just not something that I'm particularly comfortable doing. I would much rather have a music bed to put the words to than the other way round. It's kind of it's really weird when you get demos. Are you hearing is there a drum machine already on them to just give you an idea of what the whole thing is going to be?
Most of the time he will send a drum machine demo. There's been a couple songs here and there that I haven't had one on, and I even like the last one we were talking, and he's like, I don't even know why I bothered programming all these drums. He goes, because 90% of the time you're actually thinking what I'm already going to program anyways. I'm like, well, don't waste time doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it must be kind of hard as well because presumably all you're really doing when you get in the drum machine, it's purely a tempo issue because you're obviously going to be doing what you do, which is not a programmed drum machine. Is there any time where you'll look at things and say, actually, do you know what? I'd like to kind of like halve that, or this section here is fast, but actually, if I flip this, we can, it can slow it down. Is it a case of going, well, okay, I've got my tempos and I'm going to work around that?
No, because I know that once we get together, that a demo tempo is not necessarily what it's going to be once we start working on it, because that's a lot of the work that we do is going back and forth between tempos. Is this the right tempo? Let's try it 5 BPMs faster. Let's record it. Let's listen to it. So there's a lot of that in pre-production. So I don't really stick to that so much when we're doing. I don't really worry about that too much. Rather, when we're doing the initial demos, because I know things are going to change. Right.
Yeah, I guess it's. And do you demo in stages? Is it sort of demo 1, demo 2, or is it like just demo it once and then you work it out in the room?
Well, we usually get everything, all the demos before we actually get together for pre-production. So we have all the songs ready. So we're gonna attack that. But it's not like we're doing. Like I said, we do 2 songs a day, so it's really in a situation where we pick one apart in the morning, we take break for lunch, and then we come back and we do another one when we're done. And that's what seems to work the best for us. So so far everything has been in demo form before we get to the studio, but last time we actually threw one together at the end of drum tracking, which will probably end up becoming a bonus track for the next record. But there is another song that we did from the Wings of War sessions that I did. Nobody else did, but I put the drums down.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm working from the last session, so.
Right, okay. So, in that case, will you leave that from the last sessions? Will you pick that up and will everybody add to that, or will you look at like tracking that again from afresh?
No, I won't track that fresh. It was one of those songs that if it even makes the record, that would be a surprise. It was just like one that Dee Dee had lying around. It really wasn't even fully finished. It's like, let's just try to track the drums just to have it, for shits and giggles.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that feeling because, if you, better to have it and not need it than not have it and need it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. So is Dee Dee the main writer in the band?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Cool. But obviously, as you said, you've got quite a good rapport with Dee Dee by the sounds of it. So, do you see yourself getting more involved in the songwriting? As your stay in the band gets longer and longer.
Well, you know what? I think Overkill has a way that they write songs, and Dee Dee has a focus in the way they've done things for years. And I'm not trying to come in and step on anybody's toes. If I have ideas and if I bring them up and they use them, that's awesome. But I'm never in a position where, hey, I think we should do this. It really would be better if it's like this. It's just like, hey, I'm happy just to contribute. So. Yeah,
I know what you mean, especially when you look at, it's like, well, what they've been doing has got them this far. So, yeah.
If it ain't, don't fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I spoke to. I remember hearing this about another band where I think actually it might have been Anthrax either. I was speaking to somebody and they were saying, look, Frank, Scott, and Charlie get in a room and they jam and they write and that's it. And I'm not going to fuck with that. That's
right. I'll back you right up on that because that's exactly how they write the record.
Right. Yeah.
It starts with Charlie, and then it's Scott and Charlie, and then it's Scott, Charlie, and Frankie, and that's the music right there.
Yeah.
And then they go in the studio, and then John comes in and does solos, and then then Joey comes in and does the vocals.
Yeah. And like you said, it goes back to that whole, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And again, as this person was saying to me, he was saying, well, you know what? That's what they do, but also that's what they love. They love that way of working. That's the fun in it. And that's what they've always done. So they're not going to change it for me, and I'm not going to ask them to change it for me. It's just, and that's part. I guess that's also part of being a member of an established band and coming to it is respecting that. That is part of it, isn't it?
Really, it is. Any band that I've joined, I have to realize that, I came out of a band that I was in for 12 years, but not everybody writes the way Shadows Fall writes. So, anytime you're in a different situation, you need to adapt to what that situation is. My role is not songwriter in these bands. Yeah, I can help out and arrange or give a riff or two here, or if you want some of my songs, sure. But my job is to put the best drum part down that I can do for the music and for that song.
Yeah.
So it's always a respect thing, whether or not it's coming in and respecting the drummers that came before you and playing their parts correctly, or with the songwriting aspect. I think it's just knowing your role.
Yeah. And presumably, in some cases, you are gonna copy previous drummers' works, but in other cases, I guess it's kind of like, well, making it a half and half or adding things here and there. And the longer you're with the band, songs change and fluctuate, and
right.
And you start adding little Jason bits to songs that you didn't play originally.
And that's what's happening. I mean, at this point in time, if you saw me play with Overkill 3 years ago and then saw me play with them now, it's night and day. Before it was just like, oh God, get to the end of the song, don't make a mistake, don't miss that part, don't forget the live ending, don't forget this different break, get the ending right. It's all these things. Now it's autopilot, and now it's just like, okay, it's this song, I feel like throwing this in. And then, Dee Dee will say that to me. He's like after the show or something, pull me aside. He's like, you're doing some interesting things tonight. I'm like, oh yeah? He's like, yeah, there was something somewhere. I was just like, oh, that was really cool. I'm like, well, as long as you're not going, that doesn't belong there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's like, that's that moment, I guess. That's that moment, I guess, where there's that, oh, you were doing something and you're just waiting on that. Okay. Is this going to be good or is this going to be bad?
Yeah. Yeah, I was doing something. Whether or not that was a good something, you're going to let me know.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, look, Jason, I really appreciate your time, and like I said, apologies again for messing you about at the beginning there. But look, it's been great to have a little chat with you. I'm really looking forward to hearing these little bits and pieces you're doing, and especially the Flotsam stuff. So I'll make sure I'm all over that on social media and get right behind that as well.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Cool, man. Thank you very much. Look, take care of yourself, stay safe, and see you on the other side of this shit.
Yeah, you too. Stay safe.
So cool, man. You too. And there was my chat with Jason. And one thing that came out of that is that it's really cool that people are starting to collaborate, and do bits and pieces, and it's like everything else, isn't it? We're all getting a chance to do stuff that we would have done, or we'd like to have done, or we should have done a different time. And now we have done. So, yeah. I don't think we'll be doing any collaborating soon. That's for fucking sure. But, it's good to see that during such times, we're all adapting. We're all adapting. I don't know. I keep wanting to start out and talk about, like, cool things that are happening in the music business because of this, but it's happening everywhere, isn't it? In your lives, in your world, in your work. I'm sure, some of you working at home who've never worked from home before, that's got to be a bit of a fucking head fuck. It bloody is. Basically, it means you're never not at work. Welcome to that head fuck. So yeah, it can all be a bit weird, but we're all getting through it. And I've ended up talking about the fucking virus again, and I don't want to. I really don't. But it's like, it's the subject. I could tell you what's been going on in my life, but oh, dearie me. You don't want to fucking hop on that ghost train. It's been an interesting time since I spoke to you last, put it that way. So, look, without further ado, otherwise I'm going to say more than I really should here. So, here we go. Come on. Get yourself together, Howard. Next interview. So the next interview took place with Dany Jones, bass player of the Heretic Order. Now, Dany, that's female Dany, D-A-N-Y. I met Dany online. This is already sounding fucking terrible. Jesus Christ, sort it out. Dany interviewed me for well-respected website Metal Talk. A couple of weeks ago, and at the end of the interview I said, look, she plays in Heretic Order, she does stuff for Metal Talk, she works at a venue. I was like, look, do you want to come on the podcast, because there's a lot to talk about, and I don't have enough women on the show, and I don't, so let's use this as a time, right, for people to please message me, tweet me at Talking Bollocks. That's Talking Bollocks with a Z on the end instead of an S. At Talking Bollocks, tweet me, Facebook me, do whatever, but tell me which of the women in metal that you would like to get on. The people you have questions for, the ones that you don't feel like get enough exposure or don't do many interviews. It'd be really cool. So anyway, really enjoyed this. Dany is a fascinating lady with a wonderful story to tell, and I very much enjoyed finding out all about it the other night. This is myself and Dany Jones having a chat the other night. Afternoon, actually, if you must be really, absolutely, completely pedantic, but there you go. Afternoon chat.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you absolutely fine.
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How was Grass Pop last night?
It was amazing. I've been headbanging like crazy and like an idiot, in my room with my cats. Even the cats were headbanging. It was brilliant. Yeah, sorry, actually, I didn't see your message straight away. I was too busy headbanging.
Well, exactly. That's why I sent you that message saying, look, don't worry about it, because, I didn't want to interrupt your festival madness.
Yeah, I'm suffering major withdrawals, so... Yeah. I'm sure we all are.
Well, we've had to cancel a tour, so yeah, it's I just don't think about it, to be honest. I've just distanced it from my memory, from my mind completely, because it's just, it's depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed.
Anyway, let's talk about more interesting things, like you, for instance.
Like me?
Yeah, like you. That's what this call is all about. It's all about you, girl. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm. I think we had this conversation when we spoke before, but I'm a lover of Italy. I've been over many times, and never to Naples for my sins. So sorry about that. I promise I should try and rectify that.
Good
So
day. Well
yeah,
done.
if you've got any connections, let me know. But so how?
It depends. What kind of connections? I have all sorts of connections.
Right. Okay. Well, let's talk about that off air. What I'm really fascinated by is just how you got, what made you decide to up sticks from Naples and come to London?
It was primarily the music thing. Basically, I always felt like a bit of an outcast because I was a major goth when I was younger, and I really stood out. The thing in Italy is that it's kind of like a mass culture, I would say. So, most people follow like the same trends. They all watch the same programs on TV. They all talk about similar things and very similar lifestyle, obviously with differences, and it has changed a lot. I mean, we're talking about, some moons ago. I'm not going to say when, but so it was very different back then. And I come from Naples. I come from a very residential area, kind of like middle class, but then we had to move. And when we moved with my mom, which was by the seaside, so it was a beautiful place, but however, it was in the suburbia. And obviously the culture is different, the mentality is different. And I remember I was a teenager back then, and I used to go out with my band T-shirts, like The Cure, and dressed as a goth and stuff like that. And the next door neighbor would open the door and spy on me, to see what time I would be leaving the house and what time I would be coming back and stuff like that. And it just felt really claustrophobic. And also, I always wanted to be a musician. I started as a singer, actually. And although there was a facility, music was very much in my life, in my family. My dad was a professional violin player, but it was never taken with the seriousness that it deserves. People look at you and you say, yeah, I want to be a musician. And they look at you and go, well, really, as a hobby, but what do you really want to do in life? So it wasn't granted the credibility, I suppose, that it deserved. Whereas what happened was I came to London on holiday, and I just fell in love with the culture, with the vibe. You could walk in the street and wear anything you wanted and nobody cared. And, yeah, I just literally fell in love with it.
It's wonderfully. It's. I mean, I'm from a small town too, and it's wonderfully anonymous, London, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very different. I mean, London is isolated in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like another country, basically. It's not like the rest of the UK at all. Yeah, no, I can understand that feeling. I can understand that feeling of hitting London. I think I recognise that feeling a little bit myself as well. The first few times I came to London, which was, I was young. I was in the band the first time round, so I was a teenager. But I recognise that feeling of sort of hitting London and going, wow, this is amazing. It's just the vibe. And that feeling that just basically like anything goes. It's just, yeah, I recognise that.
Yeah, it just felt like everything is at man's measure. You can achieve whatever you want. There are so many opportunities, so many possibilities. You want to work in films, you can do that. You want to be a musician, you can do that, especially with the arts. So I guess to me that was so attractive. And I was at university actually in Italy, and I just left literally. I just went back. I said to my mum, I'm leaving, pack my bags, and a month later I got myself a job here and moved. 1993 that was. Yeah, she was shocked, but she's an artist, so she understands. So there you go, the rest is history.
Wow. So yeah, and quite a quite a long time ago, and you've kind of navigated your way into the metal circuit. And how did you find that? Was it welcoming? Was it how did you kind of start getting into the scene?
Yeah, it was welcoming. I mean, I love the metal circuit. It's my favorite. In fairness, I've dipped in and out of all sorts. I was a massive raver when I first came to London. I spent probably the first 4 years just going to all raves and clubs and all over. You would find me dancing on the podium and closing the club. So
awesome.
Believe it or not, I was into dance music heavily, trance.
But that stuff is its own kind of heavy.
Well, exactly, deep house, that kind of stuff. Nothing too commercial. It's never too commercial with me, but loved it. I had the time of my life. I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of people, from back then, and we had some amazing times together. And then obviously I had my background, which was kind of new wave goth. So my very, very first absolute crush was Duran Duran. When I was about, 12 years old, and my bedroom was absolutely plastered with their posters, and then I went, it was my first ever concert, Duran Duran, in Italy this was, and then obviously I started listening to more kind of like heavier and darker stuff, like The Cure, Joy Division, Sisters of Mercy, all that kind of like gothic new wave. Then grunge came on, absolutely fell in love with it. And at the same time, I got into the metal thing because my ex-boyfriend was a massive Metallica fan, and he used to wake me up every morning with blasting the stereo and listen to this, listen to that riff, And I was like, wow, this is good. So that was that. And then when I moved here, I got myself in a covers band as a lead singer, and we just started doing metal covers, like the usual classics like Enter Sandman, and the like, Sweet Child of Mine, whatever, and that was that, and it was cool. Being a girl, it has its advantages and disadvantages. It's a little bit harder to establish yourself and to get people to take you seriously. So I would always recommend to everyone to just make sure to really, master your craft. I mean, in general, anyway, but then if you want to be a professional, that's something that it's second nature, isn't it? It's innate.
Yeah. Basically what you're saying is, look, you've really got to be on top of your game as a woman, because people, are going to be doubting you to start with. So you've got to be able to produce the goods when you get the chance.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, especially back then, now not so much, but a few years ago, the market was fairly male-oriented, and there were girls. There have always been girls playing it. But,
there has always been
kind
girls.
Of like cliche, isn't it? Oh, you're a girl, but can you really play? And then you have to kind of like prove yourself, which is complete bollocks, because it's like, well, this is what I do. This is what I'm on about. Doesn't matter whether I'm a girl or a guy. It's the same, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, there's always been women involved with metal. I mean, my own experience. I mean, thrash metal. Debbie Abono was a hugely influential lady in the Bay Area scene. I knew her. She met her several times, and she used to tour manage Forbidden. I met Gloria, who is now Gloria Cavaliero, when she was Sacred Reich's manager. Toured with Exodus when Tony Isabella was their tour manager. So there has always been women in metal. Admittedly, none of those roles were actually in bands, but there has always been, women in the metal scene.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at Sharon Osbourne, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. There you go. The Piers Morgan of the Piers Morgan of heavy metal, the female Piers Morgan of heavy metal. Yeah, not a massive fan, but anyway, sorry, your story, not mine. Carry on.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, so that was that, and then from the covers, I really felt the need of being in original bands. I've never been too much of a covers person personally, or tributes. I dip in and out. I occasionally work. I know wonderful musicians in the London scene, and we all collaborate every now and then on different projects. Lately, I've also worked as a promoter. I've done a lot on the business side of things as well. And I've promoted a couple of shows myself. And lately, unfortunately, we lost a really dear friend. So what I did was to raise like a fundraiser. And I got together, I got like the creme of the musicians in London. And we had this beautiful gig at Metalworks at the Monarch in London. And we just did some covers. It was to celebrate her memory. But this is just an example.
But that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was mesmerizing, to be honest. Fantastic night. You obviously can come across all sorts, as I'm sure you know.
Oh yeah. I am often one of those all sorts.
There you go. But generally speaking, I must say that the metal scene is by far my favorite. I work at venue as well, and even my boss is a total punk, and he was like, I can't believe our metalheads, they're so polite and they're so nice. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, because you always imagine this really, burly, rough around the edges type of guys. And they're not. They're so not. They're just chill. They just want to headbang, enjoy the music, have a few beers. That's it.
My parents were always exactly the same back in the day when I was a kid, and we used to end up with bikers coming round and all sorts. They would always be amazed at how polite everybody was, And I think that has always been. But it's always been the way. Is the image is just completely counterintuitive to how things really are.
Totally, yeah, for sure. That's prejudice for you, but it's very true in many circumstances, isn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
By its cover.
Oh yeah, I mean, such is life. But ultimately, the scene survives, and I kind of like that it's completely different to how people really think it is on the outside. I think that's kind of appealing. That's what makes a scene a scene.
Absolutely, no, it's totally fascinating. Yeah, and it really makes you go beyond, and then you surprise yourself. Then you think, what was I worried about? What was I afraid of? So yeah, no, definitely cool. But I do enjoy it very much. I'm a total metalhead anyway, so I'm far edgier than a lot of my male peers. In fact, I don't know why this happens, but most of my ex-partners actually, and friends in general, they're more into the kind of like AOR type of glam rock, glam metal type of scene.
Oh, good Lord. Well, that explains why you're not still with those guys.
Yeah. One of the reasons.
What were you thinking? AOR. God, no. Anything but AOR.
No, honestly, yeah, same. And I mean, I like some of it, but gosh, I remember I had this massive row with my ex-boyfriend when we went to Download, and then he wanted to see Steel Panther, and there was another band, I can't remember who, but they were clashing basically. It was like, oh, let's go watch them, and it was like, no, we must go watch Steel Panther. And eventually we just split, because it was like you do your thing, I do my thing, But yeah. I always end up being like, the one who's into the heavier stuff. So there you go.
Right. Okay. Well, I apologise for passing comment on your previous relationships, but
no, that's okay.
Sort it out, Dany. Sort it out. So how did you end up? How and when did you end up making your way into the Heretic Order?
That was about, is it 2 years ago now? 2 or 3 years ago. I've lost count. What happened was, I'd known the guys since the 90s. I was a massive, massive fan of the previous band. It's called Breed 77. You might know them.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Big. And we were on the same scene. I was in a different band called Copperhead at the time, and we supported them actually once as well. they got big, like they got signed and then they shot to stardom basically. So
yeah, I saw him. I saw Breed 77 a few times.
Yeah, I mean, all well deserved. I absolutely love the band. I'm a massive fan myself. I have a few albums, I miss them actually. I would love for them to have a reunion. It'd be awesome. I'll be front row, or actually hopefully backstage because I play with the guitarist. So there you go. But yeah, so then such as life, they did not disband as such, but they took a long hiatus. The guys spread out. The singer went back to Gibraltar, which is where they were from. So just geographically, logistics. Basically, they just didn't do much for a while. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't wish to comment further in terms of what happened there because I'm not sure myself. But Dany is the lead guitarist in Breed 77, and he's an incredible musician. He's a composer, he's a fantastic producer, he's a genius. Somebody I really look up to, very, very talented, and I always felt that I would love to play with him. And he's also an audio engineer, and he works on the scene in London. So he has seen me performing several times in different guises, different bands, covers bands, my own original bands, etc. So he knew of me, and what happened was that their bass player left the Heretic Order. So after Breed 77, he went on to form the Heretic Order with the old Breed 77 bass player, Stuart, and new other members from, obviously different bands, and they formed the Heretic Order. They've been around for, I'm not sure, probably 5, 6 years, and then Stuart left, and he approached me, and he said, look, I'm looking for a bassist, and I know what you're like on stage. I know that you would fit in, and what do you think? So I was like, are you kidding me? I'm there, and that was it. So I joined the band. And absolutely loved it. We've done some amazing gigs. We've been on tour 3 times last year. We've been mega busy. We've done a European tour. We've done 2 headline tours. We've done 1 support tour with an American band called Dark Sky Choir. They're kind of a super group because they were from different bands. Adrenaline Mob, Lizzie Borden.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No. I recognise some of the names.
Yeah. I Am Morbid. So amazing guys. I mean, we've become really close friends. We're planning, if the guys come back, when we will all be able to go back on the road. Hopefully we will do more dates together. It was the best, honestly. It makes such a difference. You're a musician yourself. You make such a difference when you tour with people that you get on with. You have such a good time, don't you?
Well, it's like a holiday interspersed with gigs.
Yeah.
It's just great. It's just a great laugh. I mean, it's you're taking me back now to at least a year ago. It is. It's great. And when you have that camaraderie and you all start developing tour speak, and you all start developing your own kind of language and your own in jokes, and it's great fun. I mean, that's all part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the Heretic Order, my band, they'd already done 2 albums, signed to a German label called Massacre Records, and we're now in the process of recording the 3rd one, and I'm really super excited about it because it's heavy. So heavy. I love it. It's going to be the heaviest that we've ever done.
Is it so heavy that none of your ex-boyfriends would like it?
Yeah, possibly.
Oh, good for you. So how long when did you start working on that, and whereabouts are you in the process at the moment?
Well, the album is pretty much written, but it's on a kind of like, I love it when Dany calls it demo, stage. It sounds like an album already produced. The production is done it himself. It's so, the production is fantastic already, so it's literally ready to be basically mixed and mastered properly. So we're going in the studio as soon as we can, really. Obviously, it's lockdown permitting to lay the drum parts. and then just take it from there. But it's imminent, very, very soon. Basically, we are ready to go as soon as we can. We'll be in the studio. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. And then obviously we will be touring that again, depending on your guess is as good as mine in terms of when.
Yeah. Well, we had that conversation, didn't we? A little while ago.
Right.
Yeah, the future is unknown at the moment, but that sounds like really exciting times as well. And of course you work for Metal Talk as well, because I will have mentioned in the intro before I put the interview on, I'll have mentioned that obviously we met because you interviewed me. How did you get involved there?
I used to write for, I don't know if you remember Roadrunner Records.
Come on. Who doesn't know? Roadrunner Records? I remember Roadrunner Records when they were like the biggest metal label on the planet, just about.
Well, I used to be in the street team of the biggest metal label on the planet.
Yay!
I was in the street team. I was A&Ring for them, and I used to write reviews. So that was, I've always loved doing that. I'm so passionate about music and every aspect of it, from a composition standpoint, from technique, from the production, the business side of things. I just love to know every aspect of it. So I've always been that way. And I think I have an act for writing. So I loved just going to watch gigs and, sourcing new artists and then bringing them to the table. That was good. We had some good times. And then unfortunately they folded. They became what they became. Mark went on to form Nuclear Blast, I believe now. And then some of them have formed PR agencies and things like that. So the London branch has gone. And I have not done that for a while. And then I came across Metal Talk through a friend who was working for them. And I thought, you know what, I could, I miss doing this. I would love to give it another go. So I approached the editor-in-chief, who was Steve Golby at the time, and I said to him, do you need any writers and stuff? And he goes, we would love to have you on board, because obviously, because of my experience, because of the fact that I'm a musician, so I obviously know what I'm talking about in terms of, talking about bands and stuff like that. So, and I showed him a couple of my articles, and he loved them, and he said, absolutely, by all means, we will be delighted. So that was that. And then what happened was that the Metal Talk was there was a bit of a changeover. So uncertain times for a while, then I got an opportunity at Total Rock. So now I'm actually writing for both. But I love the fact that I do different things. So for Metal Talk, I'm doing a lot of interviews, which I absolutely love. And then for Total Rock, I write. So I write generally, I just write reviews, of news, etc. So yeah, really good fun. Keep myself busy. Yeah,
it's. Well, I do this. I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean. It's a different side of the same coin, isn't it? It's still, you're still involved in the metal scene, but just in a different capacity. And I think it's handy as well to just gives you a different perspective on things.
Absolutely, yes. I find it fascinating. You learn so much about everything really, what goes on behind closed doors. What entails putting a tour together. Getting a band together, writing an album, recording, touring. Marketing, all of that. Absolutely fascinating. And you never stop learning, do you? And then things are ever changing as well. So it's not the case. I remember I did a music degree years ago, and I studied business and production, but this was in the early 2000s, and now it has changed so much with the advent of the internet, with downloading. People are not buying records anymore in physical format. So it's shifted so much, hasn't it? And then social media, that became this mastodon that has taken over everything, really. So,
yeah. Well, we've definitely seen some changes. I mean, the scene remains the same. It has to be said. I don't know what the scene is going to look like once lockdown is over. How many venues are just not going to reopen. It's just a lot of unknowns at the moment, but it's a daunting prospect.
Yeah, frightening times indeed. It is a shame. I actually work for one of the venues, and they are part of this campaign at the moment, saying, saving our venues, and it saddens me so much because, that is my second home. I worked for them just an occasion, like once a week, for probably 15 years now. So, to think of that ending, and it's literally the legacy. I mean, that like the biggest bands have been launched from that tiny venue. So it's a very, very sorry state of affairs, really, and it's as you said, a big unknown. Nobody knows what's going to happen now.
Yeah,
it will change a lot.
I know. Well, on brighter things, what have you? What's your jam in lockdown? What are you? What have you been listening to?
All sorts, really. I'm trying to see. I'm terrible with discipline. I'm really bad, and I just play by ear, and I just love playing songs. And then all my life, I've been going to school, and I've done I love going to, just learning in general. I'm addicted to learning, so I sign up to these courses, and then I do all these courses, all these classes, and but I'm terrible with discipline. So if I have somebody like a guidance to tell me, okay, you must achieve this by next week or whatever, and I have a deadline, then I will do it and I will smash it. But if not, if I'm left to my own devices, I'm terrible. I have the attention span of a pyramid,
Yeah. Well, you're talking to somebody who is fully diagnosed ADHD, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, there you go. Hello, brother.
Hello. All right, you too.
I'm terrible. I'm not diagnosed clinically, but I'm sure that I'm totally ADHD and OCD as well.
Well, it's definitely worth. And look, I don't mean to sort of start preaching, but I got diagnosed about 15 months ago. I got medication at the beginning of the year in January. It's definitely rounded off some rough edges, that's for sure.
Do you find any change? Do you feel a difference now that you're on medication?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not at all.
But if you think of, just imagine a box of leads, okay? Yeah? Like guitar leads, and just imagine a box of leads, right? Well, that was my head. Now, if you then imagine that same box of leads and someone's come along and untangled them all. Now they're all still in the box, but it's just all untangled and it's a bit more orderly. Well, yeah, that's kind of the difference.
See, with me, the box of lead would be so manically knit in terms of they will all be rolled and then folded and then put together and taped together and things like that, because I'm majorly OCD.
Oh yeah, look, we are all our own individual little sideshows. No, I mean, like I say, it's just it's helped. It's definitely helped. I think getting to sort of my age, turned 50 a few weeks ago in lockdown. That was fun, but I think it was just time. It was time to kind of to act, because basically a lot of stuff that used to work and had got me to a certain point in my life was just now becoming a bit of an interference. So anyway, sorry, I really did not mean to make this all about me, but I have somehow managed to do that.
That's cool. We digress, actually. You asked me what I was listening to in lockdown.
Yes, exactly.
I've been listening to a lot of Alter Bridge, which are one of my favorite bands, and Tremonti. I'm a massive Tremonti fan.
I know. I read on your Facebook last night. I know.
And yes, and particularly Tremonti, as in Mark Tremonti, the guitarist, as a guitarist. He actually, in fairness, he all well deserved. I mean, the guy is an absolute monster, shredding. And I just love his approach. I've got to know him personally, and I've followed the band quite closely. So I've been in contact with them, like, personally quite a bit recently in the last few years. And I see the way that he works, his approach. I've done a couple of guitar sessions with him. Absolutely love it, because it's it absolutely takes the rule books and throw it out the window, and then he does his own thing. But at the same time, it's just so meticulous, and he's just such a perfectionist. He will never stop practicing. He will never stop trying to improve himself, and constantly, like, go the step further. And I just love it, basically. And he's incredible. I love his music, especially the Tremonti band even more, I must say, because it's a little more thrash metal. Alter Bridge are kind of like hard rock. I mean, they've got some heavier songs, obviously, but I love the heavy and dark stuff. So with Tremonti, stylistically even more so, personally. But he's obviously using his vocals, which are kind of like melodic. There's a bit of shouting, but there's nothing major, like, major growling or anything like that. So, so I've been listening to them. There's another band that I absolutely adore. They're called Periphery.
Yes, Periphery. Yeah, familiar.
I love the really technical stuff. I absolutely love odd timings. Anything prog gent.
Protest the Hero?
Sorry?
You a fan of Protest the Hero at all?
Yes, I've seen them at Download, actually.
Yeah,
they were
great.
awesome.
Great band.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I love that stuff. Absolutely love that stuff. I'm a complete sucker for technical stuff. I love technical and heavy. And dark.
That's what I'll tell you what I'm gonna ping you a link to the new Mekong Delta album. Now, these guys have been around since fucking 86, right? And in fact, the way I'm planning it at the moment, you may end up on the same podcast as the main man from Mekong Delta. So that's a strange connection. But anyway, I'm going to send it to you because it's really when they started out, it was they just wanted to basically outplay everybody, and it was very early progressive thrash. But it wasn't but it was more progressive than it was thrash. So it was kind of like, I don't know if you have heard of like Watchtower and bands like that from back in the day, who are really, really exponents of the very first, what you would call now sort of gent or math metal. It all goes back to these bands. Like prog metal goes, Dream Theater really, took that on. And there was bands, doing sort of progressive thrash like sort of Blind Illusion and Watchtower and Mekong Delta, and they've just put a new album out, and it's interesting. Do you know what I mean? It still sounds like it's kind of from another era, but it's really well done. I'll ping you a link and let me know what you think.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm not actually familiar with them in particular, but yeah, by all means. I mean, I'm always super keen on listening to new music and finding new little gems. So,
exactly.
I'm
That's
sure I like them.
That's what we're all about, isn't it? Finding. I mean, that's for me. I'm on a constant quest to find the next great band that I can share with all my friends.
Yeah, for sure. And a few and far in between, if I must admit, lately. So it is good. But yeah, sometimes I get into bands that people have been telling me about. But there's this band, I'm sure you know them. They're called Gallows. And
yes.
Frank Carter.
Yeah.
So this friend of mine used to tell me about them like forever. He's a fantastic musician in his own right.
Yeah, well, I prefer Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes to the Gallows, to be honest.
Oh, right. I don't know much about the new material. I need to check it out properly, to be honest. But
go start at the beginning. Go first Frank Carter album. Start there, and then work your way through, because he's done 3 albums in there, all very different. But the first one is it's like punk meets the first Rage Against the Machine album with Frank Carter shouting over it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I love Gallows. The thing is, when my friend was telling me about them when Frank Carter was in them, I assumed, I don't know why, I had this assumption, totally wrong assumption, that it was some sort of like breakbeat type of, poppy stuff. I don't know why. For some reason, I just never bothered checking them. And then they split up. Well, he left, and his brother, I think, as well. So they got the new singer, I think he was in Alexis on Fire. They've become this more of a proper metal band now, and they like metal, contemporary metal, I would say. So it's completely changed as a band. And then I found out that I actually loved Gallows with Frank Carter. So I was like, damn, I can't believe that I missed them, and I never saw them live.
Yeah.
So that is one of my biggest,
I know that. Yeah, I know that feeling when you just miss out on someone and you think, oh God, why did it take me so long to get it? Damn.
I know. What an idiot. And the other one that I major regret is Rush. I've never seen.
Oh, I saw them on an absolutely brilliant tour. But I saw them play the whole of Moving Pictures. It was awesome, I have to say. Sorry. I hate you. No, honestly, that's a spine to my heart because I'm a massive, massive Rush fan. I mean, Geddy, and obviously, when he first died, it was just devastating. Right. I've just gone over to my TV and I've just picked out my Rush Blu-ray, and it's the Time Machine Blu-ray, okay, from 2011. Now,
right.
I didn't buy this. My best mate, who, funnily enough, I'm off to go and see today after we've done this interview. He is a huge Rush fan. That's who I went to the gig with. But he's seen them loads of times. Massive Rush fan. That's his favourite band of all time. And one day, I just got a package through the post, and I opened it up, and it was the Rush Time Machine Blu-ray. And I was like, messaged him and I said, have you sent me this? And he said, yeah. And I said, why? And he said, well, just play it and you'll realise why. And I played it and I was like, right, okay, basically he sent me this because I've got to have it. It's something that every Rush fan should have. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, it is just, they are absolutely having a ball, and the set list is superb. You get the whole of Moving Pictures, you get an amazing stage show, and they are loving it. And there's all sorts of extras, and honestly, I cannot speak highly enough of it. The Rush Time Machine Blu-ray, DVD, whatever, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. It is absolutely brilliant. It's something that everyone should watch.
I'll make a note of it. Yeah, for sure. No, I have no doubt. They're incredible. I mean, you're one of those bands that, will there ever be another Rush? No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't when they were around. There's certainly not going to be one now they're gone.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's probably my biggest regret. And I've seen loads and loads of gigs. I go to gigs all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one that, unfortunately, the one that got away.
I know what you mean. Well, look, it's been a pleasure catching up with you, Dany. I really appreciate you taking some time out and having a chat. I will send you that link, and let me know if you manage to dig out the Rush show.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care.
Cheers. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye. And that was a really nice catch-up. Good chance to catch up with Dany. Follow her, find her, dig out the Heretic Order, and support the band. Some really interesting stuff there. And I tokenism, I'm aware of that. I don't have enough women on the podcast. It's as simple as that. And, Dany very kindly agreed to come on the podcast. And it just smacks of tokenism that I've got one woman interviews me and I get her on the podcast. And it's like, great. how do I get more women on the podcast? It's ridiculous. Now it sounds like some sort of quasi fucking Howard dating agency, which it's not. But yeah, seriously, guys, get involved. If you think there's if you think there's women worthy of well, God, fucking hell, I'm fucking this up left, right, and centre, haven't I? I'm a 50-year-old bloke. I am not a chauvinist or a sexist. I fucking promise. I'm just trying to keep up. So basically, women, get in touch. Men, get women to get in touch to get on the podcast. I really want to do. I really want to do the right thing here. Obviously, metal is still mainly dominated by men, as is this podcast. So, but it would be nice to get more women on the podcast. So you guys, do your bit. Hook me up, sort of tweet somebody and include me on the tweet or whatever it is you need to do, message me, whatever. But let's get more women on the podcast. I think it's only fair. This shouldn't just be an old man's podcast for old men talking to other old men about thrash metal. Okay? It should not be that. It should be better than that. And I promise you the next episode will be, and it will be in your ears and hard on the heels of this one. So don't hang around. Get this listened to. There's another one coming very, very soon.